Hey ladies, welcome back to another episode of the Badass Podcast. I have another interview, and these, I must say, are my favorite interviews or my favorite episodes because I get to hear other people's stories, things they've gone through, and I think it's very powerful. I think we all have a story that we need to share, and then if it can help somebody, by all means. So today I have Tara with me. Hi, Tara.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. So what I'm going to do quick is just give you a brief introduction of Tara. Actually, I think we connected on social media through a mutual friend, right?
Yep.
Okay. That's what I thought, because I know we've been following each other for a while. But okay, let me get into her bio. I'm going to read it to you. So, Tara, where are you? You are a small town Iowa farm girl. I can so relate to that. Which means that she grew up tough, independent, and hardworking. She moved to Omaha to start college and completed her bachelor's degree in exercise science and a doctorate degree in physical therapy. She's currently a home health physical therapist. She met and started dating her husband 7 years ago, and they have been married for 3.5 years now. They have a 14-month-old daughter, that they love chasing around. So my daughter's 16 months. I'm terrible at that. So we have daughters around the same age.
Yeah.
Outside of family time, Tara enjoys horseback riding. Girl after my own heart. Okay, reading, gardening, listening to podcasts, journaling, and she's a certified health coach with a program that has helped her lose almost 80 pounds so far. This is awesome. So Tara, let's jump right into it. My first question for you, we've kind of went over the basics of who you are and what you do, but elaborate on this. Tell us your story.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of what you already said, but I grew up in a small town and learned how to be a hardworking person and go. But I feel like with part of that is you never learn how to rest and take time for yourself. So that's something that I've struggled with and we've kind of chatted about before. So lots of changing and growing over the past year. Like you mentioned, I started a program last November, and I actually lost 81 pounds as of this morning. Pretty cool. I finally am out of the 200s and into the 190s, which I never thought I'd be excited about that. But when you've been way heavier, then you become.
Oh, you muted yourself.
That. Yep. Had a phone
That's
call
okay.
coming in, so that's
You're
funny.
fine. That's just life.
Yeah, totally. I'm like locked away the best I can be here, so hopefully no more interruptions. But yeah, so I've just been working a lot on myself over the past year and kind of just getting into the personal growth type feel. I always kind of dabbled in it, but I really hadn't got into it until the past year. So kind of been full force with that. And like you said, I talked with a mutual friend, and she's like, yeah, if Rachel Hollis says that and Sasha says that, like, I believe it. And I'm like, well, who's Sasha? So then I started following you a couple months back on Facebook and all of that, and enjoying all of your content and listening to your podcast. So I'm excited to be here and to chat with you. So what do I do? So I'm a home health physical therapist. So I go out to people's houses and help them meet their physical goals as far as like walking, a lot of geriatric patients. So helping them get out of bed, get out of the chair, be able to move around their house more safely and independently. Is kind of what I do in a nutshell. And I'm married to my husband, Nate, and we have our little daughter. That's a lot of fun, and lately has been keeping us up at night. So, yeah, I don't know.
No, I love that. Okay, so tell me, let's go back to your 80 pounds, 81 pounds, because now you're in the 100s, and I just want to take a minute and say that is awesome. That is awesome. Like, you've managed to do, that's a human. Like, you've lost a person in weight. So tell me how you got to that point in your life, and then what made you decide that it was time to change?
Yeah. So like growing up, and kids are always, I feel like, kind of mean, especially I mean, even nowadays you hear more about that, but just like, got picked on as being a little bit heavier, but really like looking back now, like I really wasn't, but we're so hard on ourselves. And until you've gotten heavier and you've looked back, you're like, oh my gosh, like I was hating on myself and beating myself up. And I really was, I really was fairly healthy and all that. So what always felt like a little bit chubbier through life, and in high school lost about 30 pounds, got super duper skinny. I was like 120. Um, and and pretty tiny for what I wanted to be, and went to college, and of course ate too much, drank too much, all of those things that people tend to do in college, and didn't have parents around telling me what to do. I did pick up running in college, and did a lot of running, ran half marathons, was pretty healthy and all of that. And then 2009, I was I've never said this like out loud publicly, but here we go. Full transparency, was sexually assaulted. And that took a lot out of me. And so I never had learned how to deal with my emotions properly. I had learned, how to dull the symptoms. So between drinking and eating, instead of dealing with my emotions, I ate and drank, and slowly started putting on the pounds, kind of just shoved all of the problems that I'd had and all those feelings back away inside of me, until the point where, like, I met my husband in 2011, and at that point I had gained like a solid 30 pounds, from like my running days, and I had stopped, running, I had stopped working out, really stopped taking care of myself, and really lost my identity, and hated myself for a really long time. So my husband is fantastic, and he's loved me no matter what size I've been. But, I got into a PT school, and was pretty stressed out, again, not working out, eating more and more, not dealing with those emotions. Did a little bit of therapy to deal with that event, but really never stuck with it, and just kept dealing with the feelings with food, and didn't really know how to turn around from that point. So fast forward, we got married. I tried to, lose weight, lost a little bit, gained it all back. And so I tried so many different things over the years to get healthy, but I wasn't like all in mentally yet. And I hadn't dealt with those skeletons in my closet. So I would always go back to those crutches of emotional eating, or, drinking too much, or whatever it was. So I got to the point where we found out we were pregnant in 2016, and I had just tried to lose weight, and had just started a program, and found out we were pregnant. So went through that pregnancy being heavy, and kind of used the excuse of like, well, I can eat whatever I want now, I'm pregnant. And so was not healthy during that time. So at my heaviest, when I delivered my daughter in July of 2017, I was 310 pounds. So now I'm actually down 115 pounds since that time, which is crazy to think about. Like you said, a full person.
It is.
Like, it's insane. But it's like, I was like, I always set limits of like, okay, I'm never going to be like that heavy. And then it just kept creeping up, kept shoving things away, and not dealing with those emotions. And finally got to the point where, I had my daughter, and I was like, I've got to do something. So lost about 30 pounds after she was born, with breastfeeding and just all of the stuff after pregnancy, and delivery. So still got to that point where I was about 276 when I started the program last November, and I was just miserable, and still, hadn't dealt with the emotions, hadn't taken care of myself. And as a mom, like everything's about the baby then when they first arrived. So like was really terrible about self-care, and developed some postpartum anxiety and stuff too that I just didn't know how to deal with. And I didn't even know that was a thing. Like I feel like people somewhat talk about postpartum depression, but I had never even heard anybody talk about postpartum anxiety. I didn't know it was a thing. Like literally I was afraid to like carry the baby down the stairs because I thought she would fall and die. And like I was afraid to go to the grocery store because I thought we would be kidnapped. And, and there are like crazy things in this world, but like you can't live life in fear. So was in a really not good place. And, God bless my husband for being there and supporting us and trying to do all he could. But like, I guess I'd always been waiting for the right moment to get healthy. Like, it's like, okay, when this happens in my life, then I'll get healthy. Like when I'm done with school, or when we settle into a house, then I'll get healthy. Or when I, get married, then I'll get healthy, and like all of these things. And life just continues to happen. So I just wasn't taking care of myself, and finally found a program. Saw a friend on Facebook posting about her success, so reached out to her. There's multiple programs within the program, if that makes sense. So we kind of figured out what would be best for me, being a new like mom that was nursing and all of those things, and the weight started coming off, and so yeah, I've just been sticking with that ever since. But really, my sister-in-law texted me this morning, and she's like, I've loved watching your journey, and I've loved watching that weight come off, but it's really the changes I've noticed as your personality has come back out. She's like, you've become the person you were, except like a better version. Like you're finally coming back out of your shell, and your personality is really shining through again. So that was a really sweet thing. So yeah.
No, I love that.
Quite the ups and downs and everything. But, like at one point I thought that, I'd never be healthy again, and I'd never be successful. But when I, held my daughter, and I realized that I wanted to be a good example for her and a good mom. And I had always pictured myself being that mom, like running around chasing her kids and being active and doing things. And I knew with how miserable I was and how miserable I felt that I wouldn't be able to show up and be that person that she needed me to be. So she was kind of my inspiration to finally get my ass in gear. I feel like I can say ass since it's the Badass podcast.
You can say whatever. You can say whatever the hell you want. Like there is no limits here. You can tell everybody to fuck off for all I care. Like not really, but you know what I mean. It's totally fine.
That, but yeah, totally. So
no, I love this. So okay, so tell me. I want you to hone in on that moment, if you can remember. Like what was the breaking point? What was it where you're like, I cannot live life like this anymore? Like, do you remember a big significant time, or did you just like wake up one day and say like, not this? Or do you have a moment?
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of like a culmination of moments, like over time. Like it had been building up. So I'd been looking for something, and so like I finally made a list, because there's something really valuable in just writing things down. Both to help you remember and just to get it out there. It makes it more tangible. So I wrote down like, I wanted a health coach, and I wanted something to help me be accountable, and I wanted something to help get my mind healthy again, and I wanted something that taught me how to drink water, and I wanted something that would be a true lifestyle change. I didn't want to do another diet that I would be gaining that weight back, because 80% of diets fail and people gain the weight back. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And I feel like the final tipping moment where I was like, oh, okay, this is BS, like enough is enough, was like when I, was playing with my daughter on the floor, and it like took like everything to get me up off the floor. And then like later that day, we were going for a walk, and like I couldn't even walk like a half block without being out of breath. And I'm like, this is freaking ridiculous. Like I, for a living, teach people how to be more healthy in a way as a physical therapist. And I'm like, and I'm not showing up and being the best person I can be. I'm not being the best mom. I'm grouchy. I'm miserable. Like it was just like, enough is enough. So I started kind of looking for things and researching. And yeah, that was kind of the tipping point, was that day, I would say, is what stands out in my mind. So
I had a very similar day where I woke up and was just like, yep, enough of this crap. I'm done. I need a change. And so you talk about a lifestyle versus diet. And I love this conversation, because I too had been a dieter my whole life. Like, give me the juice cleanse, give me this cleanse, give me that thing, give me this pill, give me that pill, and I did all these quick fixes. And not that I have ever been, well, maybe I don't know. I find that the BMI chart is kind of out of whack, because as of like a year ago, I was considered obese, but if you looked at me, I didn't feel that way. Anyways, doesn't matter. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But I, had never been comfortable in my own skin. I had always wanted to be healthier and more in shape. And so I had always found myself going towards these fad diets. And really, it is a lifestyle change. So can you elaborate, because I feel like I have this conversation quite a bit, but I want to see what your take is on the difference between a lifestyle change versus a diet.
Yeah. I was the same way. Like even at my like skinniest, like when I graduated high school, like I still didn't like myself. I still didn't
Yep.
like who I was in the mirror,
Hmm.
because I hadn't like fixed the inside. And I remember like when I delivered my daughter and like they hand you the discharge paperwork and like that was the first time in writing I saw the words like morbidly obese. And I
Oh,
was like, what the hell? I'm like, oh my God, like that's, I am right now. Like I am obese. Like I'm going to kill myself someday, being this heavy, like it just destroys your body. And so I knew like having tried every diet out there, but I never was fully in. I'm like, I have to make that mental mind shift. And so like, yeah, I was looking for a lifestyle change, like something I could continue. So like after you lose the weight, like we transition and then you're, in maintenance and basically keeping that weight off indefinitely. So like, you know, I know that I will continue to eat, 6 healthy meals a day when I'm done with the program at my goal weight. I'm going to continue to drink 100 ounces of water, half my body weight every single day. I'm going to get up and move my ass every single day, at least 30 minutes, and we'll start working out and all that. But like right now, like I get up and move more and I go for walks and I try to be as active as possible. Um, so yeah, it's really shifting that around. And I feel like, um, a lot of the components were shifting like my mental game around and changing my mindset. Um, but yeah, like the diets are something where it's like, okay, like I'll get this weight off. And a lot of people do them like if they've got like a trip or an event coming up.
hmm.
Like if they're like, oh, we're going to Florida, like I want to look good in a swimsuit. And it's like, okay, well then as soon as they get to Florida and they're in the swimsuit, then they're like eating all the junk food again. So it's like, I finally got to the point where I'm like, I don't need that food anymore. Like I had to get over those emotional hangups. And I knew with a diet, like if I felt super restricted and I wasn't getting the stuff that I needed, that I would, go back to my old habits. And I finally learned too, with like a lifestyle change, you're looking for healthy food that's going to fuel your body because it's like,
Yes.
if you're putting donuts and Casey's breakfast pizza in your body all the time, like you're going to feel like crap. Not
Mhm.
that I've ever done that a million times, but not
Dude, I'm
anymore,
guilty. Like,
you
give
know,
me a
it's
twisty
so
donut
good.
and a bacon slice of breakfast pizza, and you're gonna make me want to go to Casey's after this.
Yeah. But it's like now, like I can walk into like Casey's and like I did this like yesterday because I'm traveling all the time for work. So like I walk past those things. I don't even want them anymore because I've shifted my mind to that lifestyle change where like I'm gonna go get like a bottle of water and like an ice water, just to have something different to taste as I drive along my day. Like I don't even go for those things anymore because I know like how bad I felt, and even when I dieted I felt like crap, but now like actually changing my life and putting proper nutrition in my body, you feel so good, you don't even want that stuff anymore. um
No,
I
I
don't know
love
if I
that.
answered your question, but
No, that's
yeah.
perfect because I think that that's exactly what I want because I'm a really, and I used to be immediate gratification kind of person. Like, give me all the
Absolutely.
juice cleanses, let me lose 10 pounds, and then I'm going to go back to my drinking and smoking and Casey's pizza. Like, I am guilty too. But
Yep.
it's a lifestyle change. And I love how you hone in on how it makes you feel because
Yeah.
that to me is key. Like, some
Oh
people
yeah.
say, oh, I don't want to eat healthy, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't taste good. And it's like, okay, it's not always, I mean, healthy food can taste good. Honestly, you probably have so much freaking sugar in your system that you need to like I don't
Detox.
even know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to detox that because your
Hmm.
taste buds are like out of whack because you're feeding
They're
yourself so
fried.
much
Yeah.
sodium and sugar and all this crap that you don't even know what tastes good because it's just, oh, anyways, on a tangent.
It's like
But
the phrase like you don't know how bad you feel until you feel really good.
mm-hmm.
You're like I knew I felt like shit, but like until I started like this program, and like after 4 days on the program, like the inflammation's down, you're not putting sugar in your body, like my
Yes.
body felt so good. I was like addicted, like I have an addictive personality. Like I was like, okay, I'm going to be addicted to being healthy and treating myself right, so I can show up and be the person I want to be. And I felt so good, like I was sleeping through the night, when permitted by baby. I was, able to show up all day. Like I could work a full day and not pass out when I came home, because like before the program, like I would work, it would take it all out of me. I'd have to come home and sleep for an hour, 2 hours before I could make dinner and then go back to bed or watch Netflix or whatever. Um, so it's really like shifting that mindset. And so instead, like I have energy all day. Like I'll get my kid, we go for a walk, I hang out with my husband, I'm making dinner. Like I'm up on my feet now until like 10 o'clock at night, like going, and I'm not tired. So it's really like you get addicted to feeling good.
Well, and it's really fuel. Like it's no joke when they say food is
Yeah.
fuel. And when you feed your body crap, your body's going to run like crap. And when you feed
Yeah.
your body
Like a car.
nutrient, yes, exactly. Like you wouldn't put water in a car and expect to drive to, like you would not make it very far, right?
Yeah. I literally, when I see the donuts yesterday at Casey's, I'm like, would you put a donut in your car and expect it to like get where you need to be? Like, no, like, of course not. And somebody else had said too, like, take a look at what you're putting into your body. Like, would you feed that to your like baby, like your brand new baby? Like, what do we give them? We give them vegetables, we give them fruit. Like you try to give them a balanced diet. So it's like, why would I not do the same for me? So
I like that a lot.
Don't put donuts in your car.
So what do you, if you guys take away anything from this, don't put donuts in your car.
Because then you'll feel like crap. So yeah.
So what do you think?
I don't feel deprived too with that change of lifestyle. Like I don't feel deprived anymore. And I know, like, if you want to have like a glass of wine or do something on occasion, like it's fine, but like not to go off the rails like I used to with all of those things and feel like crap for days. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
So what do you think the biggest challenge for you was on this? I'm going to call it a roller coaster because I know what you mean on the highs and lows.
Oh, definitely.
So what do you think the biggest challenge was for you to get to where you're at today?
I mean, there were so many challenges along the way. Like I obviously mentioned, like the sexual assault and all of the things that came with that. And there was other times like where I failed and it just like knocked me down. Like when I didn't get into PT school, like the first time I tried, I was on the waiting list, and that was just, God showing up. And if I had gotten into PT school when I wanted to, I wouldn't have met my husband. Like I would have been in school. Like I wouldn't have been working in the place where I was working at, and I wouldn't have met him because I was his waitress at a restaurant. So like I wouldn't have still been there and met him. Or if I had gotten into school like at Iowa University, like I wanted to, like I wouldn't have met him, and like I wouldn't even have my kid today, so it's like looking at those challenges differently now down the road. But like I didn't pass boards the first time I graduated school because I hadn't dealt with that anxiety, and I would have like panic attacks with all of my tests in school to the point and I never had that before the sexual assault, but after that, like I would literally have panic attacks all of senior year of undergrad and all throughout PT school, where I'd be like literally ill in the bathroom during the test because I had such terrible anxiety. So like that anxiety obviously was a huge challenge. Then like my husband, after we first got married, he was deployed, and like all of the things just kept building up throughout that time. And that anxiety, like after my daughter was born, it was like, I know you've said too, like Sasha, like you've had anxiety and you dealt with all of that. Like, how it feels to just like, you feel like you're boiling over, like out of control. Like, and I never really had that before in my life. So like, that was probably one of the biggest challenge. But like all of those things basically added up and contributed to the anxiety and that feeling of being a failure. And I've just learned to shift my perspective finally of like, okay, like if I hadn't gone through those things, like I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't be able to help other people who are going through those things. And I wouldn't be able to say like, you can get through it. Like, I've been inspired by your story and how you beat anxiety, beat depression, got over your problems. Like, so it's like, it's possible to do that. And I feel like for a long time, I doubted myself because of all those challenges, and finally arrived at the point where I believed in myself.
Gosh, I love that. No, I talk to so many women and their biggest struggles are just like you and me. Like they have the anxiety, like the fear of the unknown, just fear in general, fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, the self-doubt, you know, the negative self-talk, all the things that we tell ourselves. And once it's almost like once one person figures out a way to like overcome that, it's like
Mm-hmm.
this ripple effect. It's like, oh, well, this person did it, so if I just do these same things, you know, I can do it too. And so I love hearing that, you know, because I've been there and I've struggled and it sucks. And I mean, did you ever feel like you were alone throughout this whole
Oh yeah.
process?
Oh yeah. And
So
there's,
how did
I
you
mean,
deal
there's
with
people
that?
around you. I mean, I feel like part of it's just getting over yourself and asking for
Oh
help,
yeah.
because I mean, for so long, I'm like, nobody else struggles with this. Like, nobody else has the problems I'm having. So you just stay closed up. Like, I just stayed boxed in. Like, when my husband was deployed, like, I would show up for work. Like, I was a functioning adult. You know, I'd show up for work. I'd come home, stuff my face. I'd pass out on my couch. I'd repeat the next day. Like, I didn't, spend time with friends and family. So, um, I think Brendan Bouchard is one of the people I watch on podcasts and stuff. And he talked about like when you're down and out, you've got to get out and about.
Mm-hmm.
So just like get out of your house, like get out, like call up a friend that you've been meaning to talk to, like rip that Band-Aid off, like call them up, be like, hey, like I need to get out. I need to go for a walk. I need to, join a gym. I need to do something. Like you have to physically move your body and change your state, or you're going to stay stuck in that dark place. So that realization was a big thing, and learning, shifting the perspective and learning from those failures, and getting out of your own head. And I found like I finally got to the point when I was at my very heaviest, where I remember that day we came home from the hospital, when they weigh you every time you go in when you're pregnant. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you slap in the face every single time. Like, do we really need to know that number?
Is this necessary?
But I finally got to the point where like I could look at that number on the scale and be like, you know what, like that's a number, like that doesn't define me. That's not who I am. My self-worth, my value is not defined by that number on the scale. And I'm going to choose to love myself right now at my very heaviest and my worst place. Um, and I think that's super important, because as women, we don't, love ourselves necessarily. And maybe some people grow up and they do, and they don't know what I'm talking about. But, like I didn't ever like truly love myself and value who I was. I was always defining myself based on like, how I looked in the mirror, and like you said, just not feeling comfortable in my own skin. So I feel like there was so many small steps over the course of time where it was like building up, but yeah, getting to that point where I'm like, okay, enough is enough. And, shifting my perspective of like, I'm never going to quit. Like I've always been able to figure it out before, like get your butt back up, like keep going forward, keep working on yourself, go to therapy, get over your pride. Were all
Every
huge, huge things for me.
I love that. And I've heard somebody say everything, and I don't remember who it is. I can't even quote it, but they said everything is figure outable.
Yes.
And the journey never ends, right? Like as soon
No,
as
it
you
doesn't.
accomplish one thing, it's almost like the universe or God is like, okay, well you've completed this test. Now here's
Here's
this
the next one.
test.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes,
it doesn't
so
ever
true.
get easy. You just get better. You get better and
Yes.
better every single day. And it sounds like, I mean, just listening to you, I'm sitting here and I'm just in awe. I mean, I knew a little bit about your story, but I just find this so fascinating. I am so happy that you are just being so raw and open. I love it. So, okay. So tell me what's next for you. What is your next test? What have you been up to?
Um, I think I wrote that down, but then I was like, you don't need to.
You're fine. No, just
I'm a
whatever
I'm a
seems.
writer downer, preparer person.
I am too.
Um, oh yeah, I did write it down. Good job. Um, so you got to learn to laugh at yourself, because I was so serious for so long, and I just don't care anymore. I stopped caring what other people like think about me.
Me too.
I value other people's opinion, but like, if they aren't somebody that's like showing up and supporting you, or if they haven't done the thing that you're trying to accomplish and they're trying to beat you down and talk you down, like you just can't listen to them. Like the phrase, don't let the cheap seats have an expensive view on your life, I think
Yes.
is But anyways, so continuing to lose weight to get healthy. And like, there's been people who've been like, don't you feel selfish for like focusing on yourself and not taking care of like your kid? And I'm like, oh, I take care of my kid. Like I take care of my kid better now that I'm showing up for myself. So just continuing on that weight loss journey to get to my goal. And then I'm going to run a half marathon in 2019, which scares me, but it will have been like 10 years since I ran my last one, which sounds crazy, but I feel like that's going to be a full circle, like turning point where like, I'll be at my goal weight. I'll be working on my health, be working out. So that's something that's coming up. I also do like a book club. If any of you guys are interested, right now we're doing Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis, who's changed my life. I know you've probably felt the same way, Sasha. And so many other women out there are, yeah. So doing that book club, and then like it's just a group of women. There's like 37 of us, I think, and just talking about the book and going through that, doing a discussion guide, and then we're going to keep doing personal development books. I mean, until people don't want to do it anymore, I guess. But doing that, continuing. So I started as a health coach last year too. After I lost 8 pounds my first week on the program, and then another 6 pounds the second week. And then I felt amazing. So I started health coaching, been working with ladies on that. And I can work with guys too, but, so far just ladies. But continuing to work on that and help more people, I really found like my passion in that. And one of my dreams always growing up was like the Extreme Makeovers weight loss edition. Did you ever watch that show?
Oh, I was addicted to those.
With Chris Powell and Heidi.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was too. Like every week I'm like, okay, like who is it? What are they doing? And I was just blown away. But then I had this like, I don't know what level of crazy this thought is, but I'm like, I wanted like somebody to intervene in my life like Chris and Heidi did. And I'm like, but I'm not fat enough yet. Like I always had that terrible thought. And like, until I got to the point last year at my heaviest where I'm like, okay, well, like I would qualify for that show now, like if they were still doing that. And so I've always been intrigued by that transformation specialist, if you will. So that's kind of a passion that's been reignited in my heart. So continuing to build that. And I find that helping other people reach their goals and celebrate their victories, like it helps me stay accountable. It keeps me going, and I'm almost more excited for them,
Oh, I totally understand that.
Yeah. So, but it keeps you on track. It keeps you excited about what you're doing. So it wasn't something that I didn't think I could do it. I didn't have the confidence to do it, but I kind of got thrown into it on this journey. And so continuing to work on that. And my theme of 2018 was actually intentional. I've never had a theme before, but I think it helped. So I was like, whatever I do this year, I'm going to be intentional about it. Like I'm going to be intentional about my eating and my drinking and my water and, calendar planning and, spending quality time with my family and doing all the things I wanted to do, but before I would make every excuse, under the sun. So just being intentional and authentic in everything I do. So continuing that theme forward, I think, into 2019 and continuing to keep going. So, yeah.
I love that. So what do you want to say to the woman that's listening to this right now?
I have this cough that will not go away. I have a lot of things, so I don't know how much time you have.
Nope, let's hear it.
I was like actually organized and like wrote down a couple thoughts because otherwise I would just, talk in circles and babble. So I think like the biggest takeaways that I've had would be like, you need to have structure. I feel like before I was always afraid to have structure in my life because I thought I would lose freedom. And I've found that there's freedom in structure. So like having a daily routine, like waking up a little bit early in the morning or whenever you can during the day and taking an hour for yourself. And I mean, sometimes that might scare people. But if you don't have an hour for yourself, like you're not living, you've got to carve out that self-care time. And I know you've mentioned this before, Sasha, but like I always thought self-care before this was like going to get your toes done or like going shopping or, you know, and really self-care is showing up for yourself and doing proper fuel, like eating the right foods, you know, drinking your water, getting enough sleep if you can. Um, you know, taking care of yourself every single day is super important, because you can't function and accomplish your dreams and do all the things you don't do if you don't get those habits down. So developing that daily routine, setting boundaries, which was a huge problem for me, and I still work on that. Um, and kind of those absolutes that I won't compromise on anymore, where like before I would get busy, which I hate that freaking word, but I would allow myself to get busy, and then I would compromise. Well, like, oh, like I don't have time to make a nutritious meal, I'm just going to order pizza again, you know? So making those absolute things where like I will not compromise on those things anymore. So no matter what, like I'm eating 6 times a day, I'm drinking my water, I'm moving my body. I started like that morning routine over the past year or two, doing gratitude journaling every single day, which is simply like writing down 10 things that you're thankful for, and not like big like themes, but like, you know, like my cup of coffee this morning, and I wrote down, well, I could just read it. Getting a solid night's sleep for the first time in 3 days. All of the birds yesterday enjoying the water, which is a random thing, but it's been raining for like 4 days. And I saw like a crazy amount of like cranes and seagulls and like all of these other birds you wouldn't normally see on the water yesterday. And I'm like, yeah, they're like having a ball. Like all the rest of us are like, okay, like let's be done with this rain. And those birds are out there enjoying their life. And then I laughed at myself for having that thought. But you know, you got to have fun in life. My husband got me roses last night. I wrote down the podcast with Sasha, when the sun finally comes out. Spending time with Nate last night, you know, having prayer, hitting my weight loss goal of Wonderland, we call it. So just writing down like small things from your day that you're grateful for. And I find too, like as my day goes on, like I look for those moments and I remember them. And that helps so much with my anxiety, because the more that I put myself in that state of being grateful, I didn't have time to be anxious. And when I'd have like something terrible like happen, like September was a pretty rough month for me, to be honest. Like the beginning of it, there was a lot of things, and in those moments where like I felt like the whole world was crumbling down around me, like I found myself finally like looking for like gratitude. Like even in the worst moments, I'm like, what could I be grateful for in this moment? And that like kept me from like spiraling out of control and going, you know, off the deep end of life again. And what else? Oh, you've got to be growing yourself on a daily basis. So like listening to Sasha's podcast or listening to other podcasts that motivate you. I listen to it like at least 4 or 5 podcasts a day now because I'm in my car. So like I don't even listen to music anymore. Because I was like, well, music isn't going to change me. Like I love music, I enjoy it, and there's different times. But like if I can be putting some knowledge in my head, it just calms me down and helps that anxiety. So I listen to a lot of like Brandon Burchard, Ed Milet, Rachel Hollis, your podcast, all kinds of different things just to get my head in the right space. And when I'm having a bad day, that kind of reins me back in, so that I have that anchor of my life, that positivity. I also learned that like I'm responsible for my own happiness, and you know there's not going to be a Chris Powell showing up in your life to be like, hey, like let's transform you and lose all the weight, you know. Although like I'm kind of doing that as a health coach now, but like you're responsible for seeking out the change that you want in your life, and you're responsible for creating your own happiness and your own joy. So all of those things, those aren't even my bullet points. That was something else I wrote down. So
no, I love it. You're so right though. And I absolutely love those podcasts.
Yes.
I listen to. Sorry. Now people are
no,
calling
that's okay.
me.
I was like, what do they do? But yeah, real quick. So the other bullet points I wrote down, you know, learning to love yourself like right now in this moment, you know, even if you're not the mom you want to be, or the wife you want to be, or the person you want to be, you know, you're not showing up at work, or you're not the weight you want to be or anything. Like, just stop right now and just decide to love yourself, and keep telling you love yourself like every day until you finally believe it. Because if you don't love yourself in this moment, like, it's going to be really hard to get to that point. Because I feel like sometimes we think, well, if I just have like more money, then I'll be happy. If I have this, then I'll be happy. If I have the right house, I'll be happy. If I have the right boyfriend, I'll be happy. And really, like, none of those things are going to fill your cup. Like, you've got to find what brings your core happiness before you can be full in any other avenue of life. One phrase I was told was like, would you say the things that you say to yourself, like, to your child? So like, when I'm like, was hating on myself, I'm like, God, I look fat today or whatever, like, would you walk up to your child and say that to him? Like, God, I hope not, so it's like being really careful what you're thinking and what you're saying to yourself is super important. That was point number one. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts
No,
lately.
you're fine. I love it.
Number two, take ownership of where you're at right now. And again, you're responsible for your own happiness. So own up for where you are. Like, you're a damn adult. Like, don't still be blaming all the other people in your life for where your life is at. And I feel like for a long time I was there in that place. Mm-hmm. And you've got to own up to where you're at. Like, if you're an adult and listening to this podcast, you're responsible for your own happiness, and you've got to own where you're at and figure out how to improve it. Number three, you've got to write down your dreams, like all the small ones, all the big ones, all the dreams that you gave up on over the course of time, like me, helping transform people's lives and become healthier and help with their minds. Like, I disqualified myself from that dream a long time ago, and I was never like truly, truly happy down to my core. So getting that dream back out in front of myself has been huge. But if you don't write them down, like, they're not real. Number four, make a list of the things that bring you joy, and then look at your schedule. Do those lists match up? If they don't, figure out how to change it. That was something I did a while ago, and that's actually why I got my horseback. Because I was like, I love all those things, like at the beginning, like horseback riding and reading books and gardening and working on myself. And I stopped doing all of those things because I thought that I was supposed to, because I thought that all of my focus, like once I became a mom, had to be on my kid. And I was killing myself trying to fill that role and not taking care of myself. So, making a list of the things that bring you joy. So like, I worked on how to get my horse back in my life so that I can go, ride my horse again. Like, that brought me so much joy. And like, reading books, like carving out time to read books and do whatever brings you joy, whatever makes you feel whole. Like, you've got to do those things. You got to change your schedule because nobody else is going to do it for you. Number five, take care of yourself. Nobody else is responsible. Or will step up and take care of yourself. So you've got to be intention about your day, scheduling things out. I don't know who said this, but this struck me. Like, if you know more about a person on a show on Netflix than you do about yourself for what makes you happy, you have to change. So I don't know if you've ever heard that or not. Number six, working on growing yourself. Like, we've talked about a lot of things, books, podcasts. And I feel like too, like, I always had the misconception of like motivation. And I felt like, oh God, I got to be motivated to do those things. Like, I think it's really important when you do the things and do the habits when you're not motivated. I know you've talked about that before, Sasha, too. Mm-hmm. Just like, even when you don't feel like it, like, get your ass up, like, let's go, pity party's over, like, get going. The gratitude journaling, I've talked about that. Number seven, it helps take away those other feelings because you can't be anxious, sad, mad, and grateful at the same time. So just changing your perspective. Number eight, stop the guilt. Stop comparing yourself to other people. The only person you need to be better than is the person that you were yesterday. And I love what Sasha's created and the community she's created, because it's a sisterhood. It's not a competition. It's people loving each other and encouraging them to be the best version of their self. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you for saying that. You're making me freaking cry.
But seriously, like, it's so important. Like, I hope you know, like, what you're doing is so important for women, and that you're changing lives, literally. So you're awesome.
Well, thank you.
Number 9, you are enough. No matter who you are right now, like, you are enough. And it's okay to be enough and still want more for yourself. It's okay to simultaneously love yourself wherever you're at. Like, I loved myself at 310 pounds, but I knew that I was meant for more. I knew I was meant to be healthier and show up as a better person in every aspect of my life. So it's okay to love yourself and still want to change and improve. I feel like a lot of people get guilt about that. Like, you know, with, like, you've talked about, like, concepts of money too, like having that negative association with money. And I think it's okay to, like, want money and to have, like, financial stability. Like, that's okay. Like, it doesn't make you a bad person. Like, money is immoral. Like, it's not, you know, you've got to take care of yourself. You've got to take care of your finances. You've got to take care of all of the things. And, like, so it's okay to want more so you can bless more people and all of that. Number 10 is kind of a combo, but, like, busyness, like we talked about, that word is, like, the worst. Like, I hate busy. And before, like, I wore busy like a badge of honor. There was this time, like, in my senior year of high school, like, if you Google me, you'll probably find it, but don't. But if you Google me, as a senior in high school, they wrote an article about me in the Sioux City Journal, which was super embarrassing. But they talked about the girl that did everything. And I was in, like, 21 activities my senior year, and I did everything. And, like, I wore that busyness for so many years, like a badge of honor. And you don't have to be busy. Like, I felt like I always was filling that space because I didn't want to hang out with myself, maybe, or I don't know. I think busy is a coping mechanism for me. So I've learned that it's okay to, like, not be busy and to sit and, you know, take time for yourself, to pray, to meditate, to do things. It's okay to not be busy all the time. And being productive and planning your day is so much more powerful than being busy, because I feel like with busy, you're trying to multitask and you're just spinning your wheels, you know? I also feel like balance is crap. Like, I feel for so long I was searching for, like, okay, like, how can I be, like, the perfect employee and the perfect wife and the perfect mom, and find a balance between everything. And I've just kind of found that there's not ever going to be a point necessarily where you feel super balanced. It's about, you know, what's important to you, and having that peace in the chaos. So finding that peace inside yourself, so that you can do everything you need to do. Ed Milet said on a podcast yesterday, like, if you picture, like, a river, you have the water, like, at the top that's always, like, rushing and moving and all of that. And that's the busyness, the craziness of the chaos of our life. And the water at the very bottom is very, like, calm and tranquil and not really moving. So he talked about that being like our habits. Like, if you have that base, you have that calmness, that peace inside your soul, like, that's the only way that you can handle all of the things life will throw at you. Like you said, like, you know, you accomplish one thing, like, the universe, God's going to throw you something else to deal with. So
Yep,
that was something that kind of struck me too. But, like, you can have peace in the middle of the chaos. So yeah, that's kind of all of the things that I've been journaling and working on over time, and things that I didn't know before. But I think too, like, sometimes, you know, having that alone feeling, we talked about that, like, you feel so stuck inside yourself and so alone, like, you don't feel like other people are going through those things. So I feel like knowing, you know, like, other women like us have gone through things and have come out on the other side, like, that doesn't mean, like, we've arrived, because there's still craziness all the time, every day. But just knowing that, like, you can figure it out and get through anything that life throws at you, is positive too.
Yep. And it's so true. Like the journey never ends. You just have something else thrown at you. So like, I have mastered one skill, but then it's like, oh crap, I have no idea how to do this next thing. And so it becomes a challenge, and it's something that I have to work through. It's just
kind
part
of
of
fun. I mean,
it's totally fun.
Yeah.
Once you change your mindset, it becomes fun. Like before I'm going to call it like the other side, because a lot of times fear holds you back. And so once you look at fear in a different light, it almost becomes fun. The challenge is you're like, ooh, what scary thing can I do next? And that's where I'm at in my life. I'm like, okay, well, I conquered that challenge. Like, what's next? What's next? What's the next biggest thing that I can do that's like totally scares the shit out of me, and then do it. And that's what the fun part is. So
yeah,
I want to ask you,
enjoying that journey along the way to that thing
yes,
too,
like
and
you
knowing
don't
that like
have to, yes.
like I'm not at my goal yet, but I've loved like every moment of this journey. Once I changed my mind shift, and like what you were saying with fear is so true too. Like they've studied the brain, and they've found that like when you're fearful and when you're excited, it looks exactly the same in your brain. So if you can shift your mind when you're having that fear and being like totally excited about it, and being like, yeah, it scares the crap out of me, but like, what's next? Like, what could I do with this instead
It's so
of
funny you say
just
that.
freezing in fear,
Yep, I say that all the time. I'm like, okay, are you feeling fearful? Are you feeling, anxious? Rephrase it. I'm feeling excited. This is exciting. This isn't fear. This is exciting. And that's been a game changer for me. So on that topic, I want to know, to wrap this up, I like to ask, so lately I want to ask like these crazy questions. Like, what would you do if you had 1 week left to live? Like no rules, no nothing. What would you do?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, because it's like, like before I would have given a totally different answer. And now that I've arrived at this point in my life, like if I just had like a regular week of like where I'm at now, like I would be happy because of all of the things I've gone through and figured out. But if I had to pick, like I probably would go be in Colorado, out among the mountains, riding horses, doing adventures, spending quality time with my family, and just laughing every day, and just, enjoying every moment. And like no day is promised to us in this life. So I feel like if you're waiting for someday to show up, like it's never going to show up. So you can choose in this day right now to change your life. So that way, like you're going to love the life you live. And, if you had 1 week to live, hopefully that's the best week you've ever had. If that makes sense.
Like someday, yes, someday is today. Like there's no magical day. And I say this all the time. I'm like, today is a good day to have a good day. Like what can you do today to make you feel good? Because really it's the emotions, it's that feeling that we're after. And so you can get those emotions, you can get that feeling, that sense of like accomplishment today. Like you don't have to wait until the goal is achieved. I always talk, I get really amped up on goal setting, but what can you do? Simplify it to have that feeling today. And then how can you harness that feeling? Exactly. And keep spilling over into the next day. Right. So
what's one small thing you could do today to go towards your goal? Like, for example, we've talked about, fitness and nutrition. Like if your goal is to lose 100 pounds, like, that's not going to happen tomorrow, but like, how can you show up today at each meal, throughout your day to reach that goal? Because if you can't conquer your day, you're never going to get to those big goals. So you've got to, like you said, work towards those things every single day, even if it's just a tiny, tiny victory, giving up pop, or, doing something small to change your habits. Like it's a huge ripple effect. So don't, there is no someday, that's for sure.
Exactly. And I say all the time, like, what is the next right step? Not what's the biggest step, but what's the next right step that I could do? You take a look at where you're at in your life right now, right this very moment, not the 100 pounds that's going to happen in a year or two. What right now can you do that would be the next best step? And that's it. And you just keep doing that. You keep living in the moment.
Doing it.
Yes, every day.
Every day. Yep.
Oh, I absolutely love this.
Even
We might have to we might have to have another conversation because I feel like we could just dive in and this could go on for hours because I'm like, oh, I should ask her about this. Oh, I should ask her about this. So we'll have to schedule a follow-up and see what else we could come up with to talk. Well, I don't even have to see what else. We could just just talk to you for hours. Anyways, so I do. I want to thank you. I really appreciate you showing up and just
You're welcome.
sharing your story. I love hearing it. I feel like I even have aha moments because I'm like, even to this day, I'm like, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. It's crazy. I'm not alone, even though sometimes I feel like it, even though I've created this community, even though every day I talk to women that are in the same boat as me. But every time I hear somebody that has a similar story, I'm still just blown away. I'm like, oh my gosh, we all feel so alone, and we're not. We're not.
I know. And I feel like too, like when you hear something like, you know, at the time in your life, it may not be the right time for that like thought, but then like a lot of the things I've said, you basically, I don't know, I'm rambling, but like when you pour all of the things into you and work on yourself, like all of that can spill out. Like if you had asked me to do a podcast 6 months ago, I'd be like, I don't have anything to talk to you about, you know, like it's filling up your cup, and then when you're ready to hear that thing, so like you've said these things to me before, and it's like you have somebody else that says that, you know you're not alone, and it validates that thought in your head and gives you permission to believe those things about yourself. So
yep, 1,000%.
that's why I write that down, because that wasn't something I wrote down in CU. It's all over the place.
Nope, you're totally fine. I appreciate you doing this podcast, showing up today. We will have to do another one. And I want to thank everybody who's listening thank you for tuning in. Thank you for showing up and supporting us in this mission to change the way we think and feel about ourselves, about our community, about our families, about our entire life. So if you enjoyed this episode, I want to invite you to do 2 things. That's it, 2 things, and they won't cost you a dime, right? First thing I want you to do is leave a 5-star review. And if you could leave a written review, that would be awesome. I love reading them. They just warm my heart. And then I would like you to share this episode with a friend. If you got any insight out of this, if you're like, oh my gosh, aha, share it with a friend, because chances are they're going to have just as many aha moments as you. And it just goes to show that we're not alone and we're all in this together. And the more we can share it with one another, the more we can build this community of badasses to go out there and live their most authentic life. All right. So thank you guys. Go out there and do something badass today. We'll talk to you guys next time.